Okay, now Veronica is back. Great. Welcome back, Veronica.
You're muted, Veronica.
Hi, everybody. So sorry, I was being locked out. And now we are very privileged to welcome Ujiwala Bexy. She's a registered dietitian and she's a diabetic educator. And she is also an ambassador for Health Promotion Board. And she's also the founder of Poshan Cure Through Diet. Shall we together welcome Ujiwala to share about deep correlation of sugar and sleep? Ujiwala, for you.
Thank you, Veronica, for that lovely introduction. So I hope everybody is able to see me.
Yes.
Yeah. So I am going to share a bit more on the sugar and sleep. So I'll be making it as an interactive session for the first 30 minutes at least, and definitely you can keep asking your questions later. So if I ask you certain questions, or if we are having some kind of interaction, it's always good to have that interaction on the chat box rather than talking, because then kind of we miss out on important things that are said by each one of you. So it would be great if you all can respond back, revert back via your chats or messages on the chat box. So now I'm assuming that most of the crowd that we have here is from Singapore. So if you all can just label for me how much sugar you must be consuming in a day, or have you actually stopped consuming sugar? Is there anybody who wants to put it up? How much sugar are you, or have you ever even thought about it, that sugar is so important? Because I know when I was in Singapore, I was so addicted to the Mr. Bean drink. I had to literally catch hold of myself, and when I realized that it is becoming a habit, I had to. And the beautiful aspect of it was when the company came up with the thresholds, 25%, 50%, 75% of sugar, and I had people who would actually ask for 75% of sugar as well. So I wanted to know, what is your intake of sugar? Have you given an insight of it? 1 teaspoon of zero sugar for Vichu. Okay, great. So that means, and when I say sugar, I'm talking about honey, I'm talking about gula melaka, everything. I'm not just talking about the white sugar. Okay, so we are talking about the different types of food that we have in the name of sugar. So we have brown sugar, we have gula melaka, we have honey. Very good, very good. Thank you, Mr. Vichu, very good. Who else wants to, the people who are not consuming, they are going to state. People who are consuming, you shouldn't be feeling guilty about consuming it, right? We are here to learn. We are here to improve ourselves. So you don't want to feel miserable. Oh my God, I'm consuming so much and people are not consuming at all. Okay, so if somebody, so now we've heard from people who are just consuming 1 or 2 teaspoons per day. But maybe I want someone who is consuming a lot of sugar and they want to mention about it. 15 grams, I think. Okay. In what form? Chen? Sugar in soft drinks. Okay. Of course. This is a good point Meera has put up, that sugar in soft drinks is also counted as sugar. Huh? Please don't miss out on that. The sugar in the drinks. We have so many outlets in Singapore, which is Milo, yes, is another one that causes, that's the form of invisible sugar that we call. Fruits, okay. At the moment, I'm just talking about as well, like Meera mentioned, and somebody mentioned Milo, desserts, chocolates, yes. Teh tarik, yes. Teh, okay. So yeah, we cannot do without a Teh.
Teh kosong.
I miss that. Kosong. I miss so much of the Teh, but in the first few years I got addicted, and then I realized, oh my God, the country is taking me on a sugary ride, so I really need to hold back myself there. So soy milk, okay, but if it is soy milk with sugar, then definitely you want to count that in. So what happens is, now that you know that there are different items that wherein we have these white sugars, brown sugars, gula melakas and all that, Milo, okay, even if you were not to buy something freshly made from these outlets, but you must be definitely drinking Milo, which is like a baby drink in Singaporean, like how we have babies to sleep with milk, we have Milo. People just thrive on Milo in Singapore. So if you are consuming that, how often you need to know that as well. Which type of Milo you're consuming is also important, because there are different types which has different ratios of sugar as well. Now, once we've got to know that these are the items that may have hidden sugars, okay, primarily, we are just talking at a very basic level. We've not even gotten into the items, the other items that you must be eating. The items that we have spoken about, or people have listed here, they're all about the drinks. But have you thought about the biscuits, the cookies, the bakery products, the toast box at 4 p.m. They wanted to clear up their buns and breads, and they would just ring that bell. People walking around the MRTs, they would feel hungry all of a sudden. If the bell wouldn't ring, they won't feel hungry, but all of a sudden the bell rings and they start feeling that. And the aroma.
The aroma.
Yeah, I know. Once I was sitting with a client at Toast Box, and just besides that bread talk, they started ringing that bell, and the client was like, okay, I think it's time to just grab my bread. Can I just go for it? And then I come back for the session. I was like, excuse me, we are talking about. So please don't get lured. So I had to really change the spot. Henceforth, I never went into Toast Box. So you want to really be very sure what are you doing to yourself when you are doing the sugary foods, right? So these are the basic examples that I am just sharing quickly. So now, is it important that you consume sugar on a daily basis, even if it is 1 teaspoon? Do you think it is necessary, or do you think it is just not necessary? It's just, it's fine if you don't consume? Okay, somebody is mentioning once in a while. Okay, Mira, once in a while. Yes, once in a while is fine. Necessary. Okay, Cecilia feels it's necessary. Why is it necessary to consume some sugar every day? What could be the reason? Why do you think it is important to consume sugar?
I think
Not
because if
necessary.
you don't consume sugar, you have low sugar level, you feel giddy, especially for
Okay.
diabetic patients. Right?
Very good. This is something that we can elaborate. I'll elaborate on this a little bit later, because it is not, or maybe let me just do it right away. It is not the white sugar or the brown sugar or the gula melaka in your food, which is a direct sugar, that is going to prevent you from the low blood sugars in diabetes specifically. It is these ingredients which will actually put you into low sugars, okay, if you were to do it often out of the fear. So I know of many diabetes patients who would always carry a sugar sachet with them, or they carry some sugar cubes with themselves, because they're afraid of having low blood sugars, and to combat that they are prepared. But you want to actually treat the cause. You want to know why are your sugars dropping. Okay, if it is once in a while, it's okay, but if it's become like a trend, it's not okay. It's not acceptable to have low blood sugar. So just recently I have a pair of uncle and auntie who are in the age of 70s, and they both experience low blood sugars in the morning at 5 a.m. and they both are ready at that time to go for their walks, morning walks. But because they know that as soon as they wake up, their sugars are going to go low, they are just drinking a glass of honey water right away to start their day, and then they would go for a walk. Is it all right? Not really, because you are just supporting your blood sugars at that very moment, but they are going to dip much faster. So so the white sugar, the honey, the brown sugar, the gula melaka is going to instantly boost up your blood sugars, and that will also drop your blood sugars very quickly, which is going to put you in a state which is much more harmful than not consuming. So it is not necessary that you have any form of white sugar on a daily basis, if I were to give you a very straight answer to it. And if you were to consume it out of the fear that your sugars will drop, you can actually afford to keep your sugars at a baseline, at a basal level. So we call it as a basal and bolus insulin and sugar level. So we want to have a steady flow of sugar into our blood coming from the food. So if we consume carbohydrates which are complex in nature, we really don't need the white sugar to keep our sugars in normal ranges. Okay. So I hope I have been able to explain about it. So now, before I get more queries on diabetes related sugars, let me first go ahead with the topic that is for the day, that is sugar and sleep. Okay, because this is more about sleep. This is not more about diabetes. We can definitely discuss after the 30 minutes of it. So I'll just share my screen with respect to the topic today, and I'll quickly start talking about it. Just give me a minute, everybody. Okay, you're able to see, right, Veronica?
Yes, yes, yes. Very good. Clear.
Okay, great. So now we are going to discuss about more in detail about whether sugar affects your sleep. Okay, so what happens? Do you think sugar induces sleep, or sugar, sugar causes you to sleep, or it wakes you up? What do you think, everyone? Yes, so the thing is, the sugar can have both the impacts on you. It can actually wake you up, or it can actually make you sleepy. Okay, so it has been an age-old tradition, which I also had shared in the introductory video. It's an age-old tradition in the Indian context that we give our kids sugary milk in the night in order to induce sleep. Okay, but that is with respect to the kids. But there are certain kids who would also whose mind would get activated, and they want to really play around after consuming sugar. So it is not always that sugar is going to induce sleep. It will create hyperactivity in individuals also, and that may prevent you from sleeping. Wakes you up, correct. Niti is right there. Okay. So high sugar affects sleep. Yes, if you were to consume your meals late in the night. So, generally we would always suggest that somebody who wants to have fix their discipline around meals, the first thing we would advise them, okay, try to eat last as it sunsets. So as the sun goes down, your meals should also wrap up for the day, and there should be no further intake of any food item, because your food that is in the digestive system needs to get digested. Okay, it has to undergo the detoxification process, and when it's time to retire to the bed, so there should be at least 3 to 4 hours gap between your dinner, that is the last meal, and your sleep time, so that your organs can rest well, rather than you are forcing. So if you were to have late night meals, okay, you come back from office about 9:30, 10, you are hungry, you're consuming your takeaways back home, okay, and then you feel so tired that you want to crash off to bed. Of course, yes, you can crash off to bed, you might feel sleepy, but the food is still there in the digestive system, which is not got digested. Okay, and that undigested food is going to remain there, and that is when the detoxification process is not happening completely, and it is going to create those toxins. Those toxins are the ones which are going to create health problems in the future. So everything starts, we all know that everything starts from the gut. Your digestive health is so important. So if you have food which is eaten late in the night, it is going to affect your sleep. Some people start, there are people who cannot control their sleep. They start sleeping when they're just eating, and they just feel, if they're heavy on the weight, they start snoring, they sleep on the couch, because already the sugar rush from the food has relaxed their mind so much that they feel drowsy. On the other hand, there are people who do not feel sleepy. They in fact feel more energized, and now they cannot rest. So you want to evaluate which type are you. Okay, if you are the type who feels more activated after sleeping, after eating your dinner, you want to prepone your dinner slightly. Okay, make sure that the dinner is got timely eaten so that you can sleep better. Okay, but is it so? You would argue and say that okay, then it's fine, right? That you, if you are the type who is actually falling off to sleep right after consuming a late night dinner, it is helping you to induce sleep, right? But that is, as I mentioned, it's not a correct habit. Even if it causes you to sleep, the food is undigested. It is going to cause a lot of dyspepsia. That means the acid from the stomach is going to come up into your throat. A lot of reflux issues might come up in the future. And again, a lot of metabolism related diseases such as diabetes can come up in the future as well. The cholesterol issues can come up, the gout, wherein the uric acid levels are high because the toxins are floating in the blood, are also going to come up if you are going to eat and thrive on undigested food. So that's what happens. My brain won't turn off because now I'm superly high on calories and nutrition. You are also, what happens is when we consume late night dinners, we are also making faulty choices. Sometimes what happens is you lose your sanity when you were to eat late at night. So many a times that used to happen with my clients also. Some of the clients, you know, in the first session, they would say, once I'm off from office, I am so hungry that I just want to buy something very quickly, eat it up, and then reach home because I'm extremely hungry. Or if I want to enjoy something from with my family, I don't want to enjoy something which is healthy because anyways it is pretty late, and then I want to eat something which is delectable. So there is a lack of micronutrients, and those micronutrients that we are focusing on specifically with respect to sleep are magnesium, zinc, chromium, okay, selenium is very important for mental health and for inducing good sound sleep. So you want to focus on these micronutrients as well when you want to really eat something which is not so healthy and you think it's fine, I'm just filling up my stomach, I'm going to go to bed timely, so my routine is set. Not really, because you are inviting health problems. You are, you know, when you're eating these breads, there are so many people who in Singapore who would, you know, just buy these breads at 4 p.m. because they want to have their dinners reaching home with this bread and some soup maybe they will carry, and that's it, their dinner. But the lack of micronutrients affects the sleep quality. Okay, that is also something that has been seen over the years, and you want to really make sure that your sleep quality is not affected because of this lack of nutrients. So if you were to eat late, of course, you also want to eat a lot of food. You are not able to, you know, just make way with soups and salads. So imagine you are a person who wants to lose weight, who wants to control your blood sugars, your cholesterol, your uric acid levels, but you are not able to eat early. Okay, and you are, or you're eating early, but still you make unhealthy choices such as ramen. Okay, you are consuming something which is a quick hot pot noodle without veggies. You don't like veggies, you like, I'm fine with the soup, I'll just take some soup, I'll just quickly dump some noodles into it, I'll quickly gobble it up and I'm done. So when you are consuming food which is lacking nutrition or nutrients, it is only going to trigger more appetite and you want to eat more and more and more. So you want to really look into, you know, micromanage also the type of ingredients that you choose to eat at that particular in that particular meal, and each and every meal counts. So if you feel that okay, 4 days of the week I'm actually eating really healthy, but the rest of the 3 days I just don't care, specifically starting from Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I want to go off the tangent, I want to just enjoy my weekends, I want to booze, I want to have a heavy food with it, it doesn't really you know, if you were to function like this on a regular basis, it is only going to hurt and create problems. Okay, and definitely it affects sleep. We all know alcohol, once you start drinking, it creates, it causes you to pee. The more you pee, the more you go to the washroom, to the loo, your sleep is affected, your entire next day is affected, and then you're trying to just come back to your normal self for the next 2 days. So you want to, you know, whatever you want to indulge in, you want to indulge in it mindfully, do it like a portion control thing, not really from the angle that, okay, I want to enjoy my life, this is my me time, this is my weekend. You are going to only force yourself into problems. Now, what happens is, if you were to, so we were focusing on how sugar affects sleep, right? So it triggers appetite, as I mentioned, and also as before the PowerPoint, as I was stating, that people end up drinking sugar or consuming sugar because they are fearful of the fact that their blood sugars might drop. But that blood sugar drop that will happen after consuming a glass of, maybe you've just had a sugarcane juice, or you've had a sweet, very sweet, tasty, or you've had any fruit juice, okay, which is strained. You were feeling low, you had it, and then what happened is you were feeling better after consuming these sweet drinks, but again after 15-20 minutes you again find a dip in your blood sugars. So that is also something that is going to create an increased appetite. At the same time, the sugar in your food intake, somebody who is consuming, so now tonight before going to bed, this is one activity that I can just share with you all, that you all can do offhand, is just list down, introspect and list down what are the items that you are consuming have sugar. Okay, and I'm not just talking about the drinks, I'm talking about total intake of visible and invisible sugar. Invisible sugar would be in the form of these bakery products, the biscuits, okay, in your food, in the sauces, right? So when we buy the chicken with lemon delight, the sticky sauce is fully loaded in sugar and lemon juice, that's it. Okay, so the sauces, the sweet sauces are all laden with sugar. So you want to make sure that you are going to take account of all the sugar that is present in your food, your coffee, the tea, the drinks, the food. Okay, and when you count upon it, it has been shown that typically it is about 15 to 20 grams of sugar that you may be even consuming unknowingly. Okay, 15 to 20 grams, that means it's about 3 to 4 tablespoons of sugar that is in there. Now, if we were to dive in a bit more deeper, we start looking into simple sugar food items. So the bread already has sugar, and then it is having a lot of refined flour that is also going to get converted into sugar. So that is a big chunk of sugar that you're actually consuming. So what happens is, when you consume a lot of sugar, or you consume foods which are not rich in fiber, or they are simple, so your ramen noodles, your quick noodles, your instant noodles, the breads, they're all simple sugary foods. The white rice is all simple sugar. So what happens is, when we consume a lot of simple sugar foods, it is going to create inflammation. Okay, what is inflammation? Inflammation means at the cellular level in your body, the body is trying to receive oxygen, okay, from the blood. Now that blood, if it is not going to have nutrients, the ones that I mentioned, magnesium, selenium, zinc, and there are so many other nutrients, B complex, vitamins. So if it doesn't have all these nutrients, plus it does, so these nutrients are the ones which help to carry oxygen also in the cells and push it into the cells. So first and foremost, you are consuming food which is devoid these nutrients. Then you're bombarding yourself with food items that are high on sugar. That is preventing the uptake of oxygen into the cells. So what is going to happen at the cellular level? A lot of free radicals are formed. Okay, and these free radicals are going to cause inflammation. Okay, and that inflammation is going to lead to health problems, lead you into health problems. The health problems be like diabetes comes in very later. The primary ones, it starts with skin issues, the digestive health issues. You might experience bloating, gastric complaints, acidity, and you just don't know why it's happening. Okay, and then over the years, you are just trying to consume antacids, you're taking some soda drinks, and you feel that, okay, I'm done, I'm sorting myself out. But you don't know, you have only treated yourself superficially. The problem is still underneath there inside your body, and then it reflects into fatty liver. Just few days back, I got a call from a client. He said that so that person is on the sugar detox, and he happened to go for his blood check, and he was very afraid because he found that there was high levels of fatty liver in his blood. So he was, and he just happened to randomly call and ask about what I'm so concerned about this fatty liver thing, because the person who handed over me the report just quickly told me that, okay, you've got a high fatty liver concern. And I was like, okay, fatty liver is there, which is anyways going to be there underlying with all the other health problems. But do you have gallbladder issues if you have that? And he said, yes, I have gallbladder stones. And he was not much concerned about it. I was like, so if you have gallbladder stones, have you got them removed? He's like, no, I've not got them removed. I think I'm still thinking about it. Should I remove them or not? So in my mind, I was just wondering, and I then had to tell him that, please, this is the stone that is not going to get dissolved with water intake, like the kidney stones. And this is something that you might want to work on getting it removed, because it is only going to create pain in the body once it goes bigger in size. And what has led to the formation of that stone was the inflammation in the body that was put up because of the stress, because of the type of food that he was consuming, which we kind of interviewed him, the lifestyle, the stressful lifestyle that he was having, the lack of sleep. So all these together, the factors coming together, and they cause inflammation. And that's the reason why also Veronica is working so hard on, creating connecting the dots rather than just focusing on one aspect. When she says sleep, she needs to have somebody who talks about meditation and breathing, because that person is going to help you to align your chakras, the mental wellness, and she needs to have somebody who can talk about nutrition and lifestyle. She needs to have someone who can talk about the other factors, the environmental factors. So these are the few things. The happiness quotient, if your mind is not at rest, if your thoughts are not at rest, so all these things cause inflammation. And one of the aspects of it is the sugar in your diet. So you can't be giving an excuse to yourself that, okay, yes, I need sugar because I need to sustain and live through the day. You can live through the day with complex foods and choices that you can make at home. And having said that, doesn't mean that you are never going to have sugar or sugary stuff or sweet stuff in your life, because it is impractical to say that. We have festivals, we have, like just CNY went away. So I'm sure you all had your share of sweets. So I wouldn't say that you should not have sweets, but having it occasionally and having it daily, there is a huge difference. When you have it daily, you are forcing your body to undergo inflammation every day. But when you're having it occasionally, you are telling your body that this is just a little piece of item that I'm consuming today, like on a birthday. But if you're going to celebrate each and every person's birthday in your office, like this is also a very common conversation I used to have with my clients. The client would say, oh, today, before they start the program, they would always say that, okay, this is the day I'm going to enjoy my piece of cake. I'm like, okay, fine, fantastic. You can definitely enjoy your piece of cake on your birthday. Who's going to stop you? And I will definitely ask you to bring one for me also. And I will not eat it, but I'll just cut it with you. So, but then what happens when the program rolls in, the client would say, oh, you know what, today I had somebody in my office and they were forcing me so much to eat that piece of cake, then I had to eat it. Then I had my husband's or my boyfriend's birthday, I had to eat that. So eventually you are this item was supposed to be eaten occasionally, and you're eating it every week once. And that doesn't just stop at the cakes. Then you are consuming Siddel's bread because it is healthy. You are going to Subway and you're taking that 6-inch long sandwich because you find it healthy. So you just don't know where to put a stop to the inflammation that is happening to your body, and still it is creating problems. Okay. So you want to really look into what are the food items that are causing inflammation in your body, which are primarily going to get digested in the form of sugar. What happens also is, so when, as I mentioned, the sugar is going to cause inflammation. Okay. One of the very classic examples of sugary stuff, which is a Happy Meal. Can somebody list down the components of Happy Meal for me? What are the items in a Happy Meal that we all feel very happy about? Okay. So you feel for the Happy Meal, we have French fries, right? French fries, burgers, and they really bring it up. McDonald's, perfect. So McDonald's is a Happy Meal concept. So what happens in that Happy Meal is, just a minute. So what happens in that Happy Meal is it's loaded in carbs, it's loaded in simple sugars, and the key and something that is very enticing for somebody who's a lover of French fries, they're like, oh my God, I'm going to have my share of French fries. Now, French fries are highly loaded in sugar, okay, and then they are fried. So in this process, there is a chemical that is formed. So the starchy items, when they are fried, they form a chemical which is the same when if we were to heat plastic or food in plastic containers in microwave. Okay, if you all don't know about that component, I'll just share with you. It's acrylamide. So that is the component that is formed when you were to also have starchy foods fried at high temperatures. That means French fries. So that French fries, if you were to do, if you were to do your business meetings on a Happy Meal, you might earn a lot of money, but are you going to remain there on earth to enjoy that money? Not really, because the Happy Meal has taken a toll on your health, and then you're just paying the bills of hospitals. So you might want to make sure that the food that you choose to eat is loaded with micronutrients and is not rich on simple sugars, because it is going to hurt your gut. Okay, and it has shown that even if you were to go for forget about French fries, even if you were to eat something which is bakwa, okay, it is quite sweet, so that is also going to cause inflammation in the body, because it is something that is also loaded with a lot of nitric acid, which to give that color, and it has shown to cause colon cancer. Okay, so low sugar. So we've got to know what happens when we consume high sugary foods, okay, or high carb foods, specifically closer to the bedtime. Now, what happens if we were to consume something which is low on the sugar? Okay, so now you wanted to eat something which is, so you started to go on a diet, and the dietitian, the nutritionist has told you, okay, please, you want to lose weight, you want to just eat soups and salads. How practical is that? In my opinion, it's not. You want to. So when I say that you got to eat your food, I always stress upon the fact that you want to eat a balanced diet. You don't want to follow any fad diets. You don't want to do these 16:8 kind of fast, intermittent fast, when you know that your schedule does not permit it. And by the time you are at the 16th hour, you're just praying to God, please help me to survive the last hour, and then I'll gobble down the food very quickly, because we want to make sure that we don't lose our sanity when we are trying to take care of our health. So you don't want to eat very little food. You don't want to eat, you're not going to count calories to such an extent that you are not able to sleep, right? So you want to make sure that you have eaten sufficient enough to sleep well, but at the same time, you want to eat it timely and not closer to the bedtime. So these are the examples if somebody were to experience when they are experiencing low sugar, and that just doesn't happen with people with diabetes. It also happen in cases when people have insulin resistance. That means if women have PCOS, PCOS, or somebody who has anxiety issues, even they will experience low blood sugars, and that will affect their sleep. So now that you are on a diet, you're experiencing some stress coming up because you have to have some presentation, or you have some deadline to achieve. Now that is causing anxiety, but you are on a strict diet. Would you eat or not? In my opinion, please go ahead and eat. Please don't stop yourself from eating, because that low sugar can be much more detrimental to your health than having high blood sugars. So somebody who is having high blood sugars, they can, still, the doctors can take care of you for the next 1 month. They will try to bring your sugars down somehow by, loading you up with medications and insulin. But if you were to have low blood sugars very often, it is very fatal. It is detrimental. So you cannot afford to have episodes and episodes of low blood sugars, because there have been cases and cases that I've known of that people have passed off. They have expired in their sleep out of low blood sugars. Okay, of course, it is a scenario most commonly observed in diabetes patients, but it is not only diabetes patients who experience this. If somebody has the tendencies of low blood sugars, the idea is to have small frequent meals rather than forcing yourself through these fastings. Okay, so please be very practical in your way to deal your diet, and don't force upon yourself these fat diets, because they are not going to help you. Instead, they might hurt you. Okay, so if you are really tired on a particular day, you've had your early dinner, you had your dinner at 6:30. This is also a very common question that I get to hear from people, that okay, now that you were stressing so much that you should have early dinners, I generally have my dinners early at 6 and 7, and I'm sure people out in this group are also having their early dinners. So should you, and you are trying to go to bed at about 11 p.m. and you are extremely hungry, would you eat or not? What do you think? When we say that, okay, you should not be, Mr. Maheshwari has asked, what is the optimal time gap between dinner, supper, and bedtime? So basically, you want to make sure that you are consuming the last meal that you consume before your bedtime is about at least 2 to 3 hours gap. Okay. But if you feel that you have tendencies, and we have people with diabetes specifically, and we have people who are non-diabetics, but they still have the, specifically people, young mothers who are, running around their kids, they have had their share of early dinner and still they feel hungry in the night. I will never ask them to go hungry stomach on, to sleep, because it is only going to cause restlessness. And there are so many dieters out there. Forget about diabetes people. I'm talking about somebody who just doesn't have any health problems and just wants to lose weight or wants to eat early dinner. And they realize that, okay, the early dinner is causing me feel very hungry closer to the bedtime. And even if I go back, go to the bed, I'm not able to sleep because I'm feeling so low on the energy. Should you consume food or not? In my opinion, yes, please go ahead if you see that that's a trend, because you might go to the bed at that point thinking that, okay, no, I think I can survive. So do that activity or exercise for yourself for the first 2-3 nights if you feel that this is becoming a trend. But if you feel and you are still not able to sleep, then definitely please go ahead, consume these nuts, as somebody has mentioned on the chat also. Please go ahead, have nuts, have a fruit, have some milk, so that you are able to sleep peacefully. What happens with nuts and milk, because they have this amino acid, essential amino acid tryptophan, which gets converted to serotonin. Okay, it's a neurotransmitter which sends signals to the brain that, please, now you are calming your mind and you're sleeping. You want to relax, and it will help you to go to sleep. So it is a very false picture if you were to create in your mind that there are so many people out there who don't eat anything closer to bedtime, they're sleeping, and I am struggling so much, I want to lose weight and I'm still dealing with this fact that I'm not able to go to bed without eating anything, and I'm just sleeping, I'm trying to sleep hard, but I'm thinking about food. And then what happens at about 3 a.m., and which is also a commonly known time, about 2 to 3 a.m. in the morning, people would get up and go to the fridge, and that is the time that they are gone berserk with their hunger pangs, and they want to consume something. And that time they don't have the sanity to choose, okay, I don't think at 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. somebody has picked up a carrot or a cucumber to eat. You would reach out for something sweet, right, from the fridge. So if you can really choose to eat carrots and cucumbers, you still go to bed hungry and you will still think about something else. So please be very practical with your own selves. Don't be very harsh on yourselves. If you feel hungry closer to the bedtime, go ahead, have a small portion of some food that you know that is healthy, has complex carbohydrates, and is not going to affect your and is going to help to induce sleep. Don't eat anything spicy for that matter, because it is going to create heartburn. Okay, so sleep quality affects sugar levels. Yes, so as somebody, Mr. Paulo was asking, sleep quality affects sugar levels. So if you have disturbed sleep, so the same thing, if you are feeling hungry at closer to your bedtime, or you just laid down on the bed, you are not sleep, you are trying to sleep, you want to sleep, but you're not sleeping because you are hungry, the stomach is giving you signals, you are not going to have a good sleep quality. Why? Because already your blood sugars are down, but you are forcing yourself to sleep through the night, which is not going to happen. So the whole idea is that if you feel that there is some kind of discomfort, your brain is asking for some food, your stomach is rumbling, go ahead, have that little bit amount of food, because your sugar levels are going to normalize, and that is going to create some kind of balance in your mental activity. It is going to calm it down and going to create sleep, have rather induce a better sleep quality. You will have a deeper, sounder sleep if you were to go on a well-balanced blood sugar levels. Okay, now impairs glucose metabolism. Yes, the sugar, it impairs your glucose metabolism. So that is the reason why we want to really focus on the type of food that you consume. It is not always calories. Even if there are people, like, somebody asked me, so when I was writing an article in Straits Time for Singapore's Straits Time, the journalist, she had put up a question that, can a vegan diet be healthy, or is it unhealthy? So it's the same question that I would apply to a 1200. If you want to lose weight or you want to control your sugars, it can be a 1200 calorie diet, it can be a 1500 calories diet. But if that number of calories is full of junk, it is not going to help you. Okay, there are people who fast the entire day only because they want to eat delectable items, or they want to eat this happy meal in the evening, and they're very happily telling me that, okay, you know what, I love food, but I eat so small, I eat so little, and still I don't know what's happening with my health, my cholesterol, and I look thin also. In Singapore, the issue is what? People are slim, people are thin. What is happening inside the thin body? That is the main problem. The blood report is so essential, because that is something that is revealing and disclosing all the health problems that is running inside the thin body. Okay, so a person who is slim and trim is not necessarily healthy, because that person may also be having high cholesterol, high triglyceride levels, high blood sugar levels. That person may be thin only because of hyperthyroidism also. So don't go by your superficial appearance. You want to dig deeper inside and find out what is happening inside the body. Okay, I will definitely take these questions, or the top, the things that are coming on the chat a little later. Just I'm about to finish with the PowerPoint presentation. Okay, sorry. So it causes resistance. Now let me just quickly tell you what happens in diabetes. Why does this diabetes develop? So first and foremost, the diabetes, and is it related to sugar? Not directly, but yes, in many ways it is. So what happens is, when you have a whole lot of carbohydrate into your diet, and that carbohydrate is going to, and if it is simple carbohydrates like in the form of happy meal or in the form of sugary drinks, okay, that carbohydrate load, when it enters the blood, it is going to break down into the finest of the last byproduct, that is the glucose. Now that glucose wants to enter the cell, but if you have a lot of belly fat, if you have a lot of fat around your belly, that fat which is coated on the cells is not going to allow the uptake of the insulin that is attached with the glucose molecule inside the cell. That means the glucose is not able to enter the cells, and it is lingering around in the blood. Okay, so that happens in cases when people have insulin resistance and glucose metabolism has gone for a toss. So their blood sugars are high, but that doesn't mean always that. So of course, the blood sugars are high, fasting blood sugars are high. It is going to be definitely related as diabetes, but you still have a fair chance if you are just at the borderline and you are rated as pre-diabetes. So if you are rated as pre-diabetes, you have a fair chance to reverse that diabetes, go back and be like a normal diabetes person. But having said that, it doesn't mean that you have been able to reverse the diabetes for that time being, and it's done for all. It's like you brushed your teeth today and you don't want to brush your teeth entire life. You have to take care of your high blood sugars, you have to take care of your high cholesterol levels, your uric acid levels every day, by just simply changing the type of food you eat every day. Okay, So insulin resistance and obesity are one of the key causes of high sugar intake, erratic sleep, as I have already shared about the deep relation between the sleep and the sugar. So if you eat, it is going to cause sleep. If you and it might hurt hurt your sleep. So you want to see what is being done. So you want to fix that problem, because if you don't fix your sleep, it is going to cause these metabolic problems, insulin resistance, and you don't want to invite this for yourself, because if you invite insulin resistance, you are inviting a hell lot of health problems for yourself. Okay, you're going to push yourself into syndrome X. You might want to read about it. Okay, obesity is one of the causes, diabetes, cholesterol. So all these are interrelated, and then the health just doesn't stop. The health problems don't stop at all. Cancer is one of the something that is going to, which may occur after a few years also. So you want to just correct the issue right at the foundation level, that is your sleep. You want to fix your sleep. It is important. If you've not had a fair share of sleep, go ahead, go to sleep. Don't go empty stomach on the bed, because you're going to only fancy about the foods that are lying in the fridge for 3 hours and still open the fridge after the 3 hours. Okay, so please be kind to yourself. Before you being kind to others, be kind to yourself. This is very important. We have known that if you are having a distorted sugar intake and the sleep being distorted, it is going to reflect on your hormonal imbalance also. It is going to create hormonal imbalances. One of the hormonal imbalances that we know very common is thyroid, but thyroid is primarily hereditary. Also, it is because of the lifestyle, people who are not. So when I read a little bit more on thyroid, it is also got to do with a lot of family trends that have been passed down. So if it is so, and that relates to all the health problems. Somebody who's got diabetes and it has been coming into their kids, it is also because the lifestyle they have passed down, not only the genes. Okay, so when we are already having the genes to any health problems, we want to make sure we don't want to develop that health problem. Why and how? Because we want to take charge of our diet and lifestyle. So when we take charge of our diet and lifestyle, even if your hereditary has pulled the trigger by about 30%, 40%, the remaining 60% is in your hand. Whether so, like I have a huge family history of diabetes. I have and all my uncles, my both the sides, maternal, paternal, all the people are around, are having diabetes. But it is my duty to prevent myself at the very best till the till the longest of the time that I want to survive without diabetes. And if it develops, I want to make sure that I don't land up into those painful complications that I have seen those people gone through because of diabetes. Okay, so it's not always that we want to blame our genes. We want to make sure that we can take some responsibility about our ill health. Don't just blame on your ancestors about everything. Another hormonal imbalance is PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, very common in females. This is also related to diet. This is also related to faulty lifestyle habits, and it is so commonly observed in females, young girls specifically, wherein they miss upon their menses, their monthly cycles, and it is not fun to miss monthly cycles because it is only going to create health problems ahead. So all this is related to your sugar and the sleep. Okay, so the conclusion I want to come up with is food can distract you from your pain. So if you feel I want to enjoy tonight, I am so much in pain. I am, yesterday was Women's Day. So many girls were wishing me and they were like, oh, I'm going to have my piece of cake today. I'm like, please go ahead. I hope you're not in pain, but you're enjoying out of the moment. Food cannot take away your pain. That is the main thing that we want to learn. When we are happy, we want to enjoy, we want to buy a cake. When we are sad, we want to eat chocolates. Why are we relating our emotions to food? We want to stop doing that. Okay, because the minute we start disconnecting the two and we live with the emotion and we separate the food from it, that is the time we are able to create that sanity and sane choices. Okay, so in fact, overeating the wrong foods can create more pain. So you want to make sure that are you eating these faulty foods out of pain, or you want to create more pain in the future? That is the reason why you're eating it. Okay, So yeah, I'm done with the session on the topic. And we have this, before I take up the questions, I will just want to share that every month we do 21 days sugar detox program, which is a group program. And we help you to come out of the addictions of sugar, because sugar is the highest and the most innocent drug that we are consuming on a daily basis. It's permitted, it's there in your kitchen. You want to get rid of this. So we are here to help you on the sugar detox program, which is a 21 days sugar detox program. It's a group program. You get daily support on WhatsApp. We have 2 meetings. We have recipes coming in. We have a starter kit to get you started first. And then we help you set individual goals and help you trudge through it throughout the program. So that is what is happening currently. And we have a lot of other things that we are into the nutrition. We have our groups, portions, kids nutrition. We have Healathon, wherein we try to share a little bit daily, something or the other, or at least twice or thrice a week as much. So please feel free to join us as much as possible to be updated on nutrition and updates. Thank you, Veron, for giving me this time and the platform to share about sugar and sleep.
All right. Thank you very much, Ujiwala. How much do you charge for this 21 days sugar detox program?
Okay, for the sugar detox program, it's only $50 that we charge.
$50 Sing or US
Yes.
or what?
$50 Sing. So if somebody is from the Singapore, if it is going to be Singapore dollar, but if it is somebody who is from UK that we also have right now, those people are also going to pay in Singapore dollar. So we just can ask them to convert, okay, the same amount.
All right.
Sorry.
$50 Sing dollars for 21 days. And is it on Zoom? How does it go?
Okay, so the 2 meetings that we have on Zoom. Apart from that, we have daily communication on WhatsApp. Okay, and we share. So there is a starter kit which is provided on email. You have to read through it. There are guidelines given to you. We talk about and discuss about those guidelines on the group so that everybody is on the same page. And we kind of want to tighten up the guidelines in the first meeting, which is happening right after the second or the third day of starting, because we've observed that people take first 2 days to just warm up and sink in the information that they have received. And after which we start, asking them questions on the group so that they are actively involved. We also do private calls, one call each person in order to figure out what is happening. And then we have, reading food labels is one of the sessions. So 2 Zoom meetings. One is setting about health goals, and the other one is about reading food labels in the end of the program.
Okay.
So we actually see where the person is in the beginning, and we want to see what have they improved upon.
All right. So the whole goal is to reduce sugar intake.
Sugar intake and make healthier choices. If people, and we just don't focus on sugar, we also discuss about complex carbohydrates, simple carbohydrates, how to change those carbohydrates in your diet, and how to enrich your diet with protein foods. What are the choices you can do? If somebody says that I'm going to the office and the 4 p.m. hunger strikes in, kicks in, what should I do? So we have that conversation on the group, and we then try to give them options that they can try to purchase around their surroundings. So basically we ask them to first help us out with what are the availability of foods, and then we suggest them, okay, maybe you can pick up this.
All right.
If they're not able to give us any information, then I'll share the information.
Okay, Ujiwala, what are the food that is good for sleeping?
Okay, that's also a very good question. The foods that induce sleep, as I mentioned. Okay, first, can I just stop sharing this slide?
Sure.
The PowerPoint, yeah?
Sure.
So the foods that help induce sleep. First and foremost, you want to make sure that the food is rich in protein, specifically on the amino acid tryptophan. So dairy, okay? Dairy, almonds, they have tryptophan, which is an essential amino acid, and it helps to induce sleep. Another item that helps to induce sleep is nutmeg. So if you've heard of nutmeg, definitely you want to just put a dash of it in your late night's meal because it helps to induce sleep. Another thing that you can think of is you want to make sure that you are, so definitely having starchy foods. If somebody is really struggling with sleeping, we do advise them to consume oatmeal in the night, just a small bowl of porridge in the night, specifically with respect to diabetes people. If we observe that their sugars drop in the early morning hours, we do advise them. So definitely first we need to know how much sugars they are actually running in currently, and based on the general reading for a span of 2 to 3 days, we tell them that okay, this is the amount of food that you want to eat in the night in order to sleep well and have a steady blood sugars all throughout the night. Okay, so can I just take the questions that are mentioned on the chat?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, kindly suggest some diabetic friendly snacks. So diabetes friendly snacks, the universal snacks would be the trail mix. Okay, you can definitely go ahead, have the trail mix. What are trail mix? They're nothing but mix of nuts. Okay, you don't want to pick up something which is salty, because again that is going to disturb your sleep. You want to have something which is bland, no, not really any flavorings added to it. So you can have the nuts like pistachios also are known, because pistachios are really high on the magnesium. Brazil nuts are high on magnesium. They also help to induce sleep. So you want to consume something which is high on magnesium closer to your bedtime also to induce sleep. Okay. Do you murmure? Okay, so do you know puffed rice? Murmure is puffed rice. Okay, so there is somebody who's asking murmure. Yes, you can take murmure and nuts. Puffed rice, yes, you can, but definitely don't go overboard on it, because eventually puffed rice is still rice. So whether you should consume rice or not, you definitely can consume rice. The quality and the type of rice matters. You want to take brown rice. Okay, when you're hungry, you can't sleep. You're so right, Elena. That is what I'm trying to say, that please don't go to bed hungry stomach. If you're hungry, please consume something which is light on the tummy and still induces sleep. Okay, amongst the examples that I've shared. You drink apple cider. Miss Felicia Young consumes apple cider vinegar with honey before. I personally prefer that you don't want to consume these vinegary stuff, which is, closer to your bedtime. So you want to consume the vinegar rather in the middle of the day when your digestive system is active. You are going to create activity in your stomach with the vinegar. So, and you want your system to relax. So if you don't allow your system to relax, again, as I mentioned, the toxins are going to lie down. So don't consume the vinegar in the end of the day. Rather, you want to consume it before your dinner or after your breakfast. That is also fine. Okay, Miss Rose Chu has asked, taking apple cider vinegar in the long run makes our bones porous, brittle, and hence bones break easily. So I somewhat, I would say not 100%, but I still agree to this. You don't want to overdo on anything. So if you want to really incorporate apple cider vinegar, you can do it occasionally, like do it for a month, take a break, then redo it if you want to, if you really enjoy the taste, and or if you feel that it makes you feel lighter. Anything that you overdo is only going to hurt. And as you rightly said, anything that the vinegar is going to take off the calcium from your body. Okay, same thing goes for the soda. So if you feel that okay, I'm just having a glass of soda without the sugar in it, does it hurt? Yes, it does hurt still, because it is going to take away the calcium from your bones and it is going to make them brittle. What about turmeric powder with honey in the morning? Yes, it is a fantastic combination. Please go ahead. Do also add black pepper powder to it, because the curcumin gets activated with the black powder, pepper powder. And you might want to even add just a hint of unsalted butter or ghee to it. Make a paste and consume it, because that allows the absorption of nutrients from these two. Okay, what about taking banana if hungry in your bed? Yes, it's a fantastic choice as well. You can definitely have banana, no harm taking banana. It will definitely be much better taking a banana than the piece of cake. Okay. So then we have Mr. Manojit is asking, is it not true that fruits should be avoided after? Okay, so this is also a very commonly asked question. Many people want to avoid fruits after 5 p.m. See, the whole idea is the same reason that when we consume fruits closer, so 5 p.m. onwards, then we are going to head further for our dinner. So the carbohydrates of the fruits and the dinner, they may have the tendency to spike up your blood sugars depending on the composition of your dinner. So if your dinner is very healthy and it is rich in complex carbohydrates, the 5 p.m. one fruit is not going to hurt. But if a dinner is only very high on carbohydrates, simple carbohydrates, and the fruit, it is going to cause problems. Okay, it is going to create high blood sugars. It might disrupt your sleep as well, as I mentioned. And that is the main reason why, specifically for Weight Watchers, it is told that you don't want to eat fruits after 5 p.m. But I personally don't believe in this. I believe that you want to eat a balanced diet. And if fruit is your savior, you might want to just keep a tap on the fruit intake, but you can still consume it to satisfy your hunger rather than looking for something that is cooked and processed. What do you think about sugar? Monk fruit, yes, it is fine. It is good. You can definitely go ahead with monk fruit. There are powders coming in. You can definitely go ahead. But again, don't just consume, sweeten up your food items so much with that monk fruit powder or however you are choosing to buy. It is still going to affect your blood sugars. It's still going to impact your blood sugar. It's like buying banana powder and adding to your food and saying that, okay, I just had banana powder, I did not have sugar. What quantity of melatonin tablets are okay for inducing sleep? Okay, this is something that I have never advised anybody. In fact, just yesterday, there was one client who deals in supplements. Basically, he deals with companies who are high on supplements. So he was asking to me about the melatonin tablets, and I was like, why don't you, just eat that small bit of porridge, or why don't you eat banana if you want to induce sleep? Why do you want to go into this melatonin thing? Because it is going to become a habit, and then you don't know when to stop. So I personally don't believe in this. So I really don't know what type of melatonin tablets you want to buy. How about drinking ginger, turmeric, lemongrass tea throughout the day? Yes, fantastic. It is good. Please go ahead, consume it. In fact, you can, now the summer season is kicking in. You want to even just cool it and drink it. It is going to be a nice drink. Herbal supplements and capsules to induce restful sleep. See, if they are herbal and they don't have steroids, it's fine. Okay, so we want to really know the quality of those supplements. Are they filled with fillers and the component, the actual component is very less, then it is a problem. But if you feel that it's fine, rather you want to take chamomile tea, closer to the bedtime, that is also fine to induce sleep. So go for simple things. Don't complicate life with these supplements, because you don't know what's added as a filler, which might, bounce back to your health in the future.
Right.
Okay, so I have been able to.
So everything go back to real food, huh? Real food. No supplement.
Yes, eat your
We
food.
produce our own melatonin.
Don't be afraid of food.
Yes, our body produce our own melatonin. It is how to activate this melatonin to be secreted again that you start sleeping like a baby. So we do not advocate any supplement, melatonin supplement, to replace your natural melatonin. All right. So is there any other questions? And also try to drink plain water and not whole day drinking lemongrass water and tea and whatever. Plain water. The best, and that's the way to hydrate your body. Our cells needs water. Our cell doesn't need all these fillers. Huh?
Yeah, and many a times this is also one thing that people do. They make these infused waters, mint leaves, lemon slices into the water, and then they don't know since how many days or hours it's lasting. So if you were to do that, just do it for 4 hours and then throw off the vegetables in it, or simply chew them up if they've not spoiled. But as Veronica rightly said, you want to drink plain water because that is something you want to develop the taste for it. If you don't have it, please enjoy it. Yes.
Supplement is something that we do not advocate as well, because whatever it is still synthetic. What we are advocating is only food. Go back to
Yes, so Mr. Manojit has asked a question that I take supplements like vitamin D, K2 every day. Without this, I feel weak after a few days. Is there a way to get off? See, so these supplements, these nutrients, definitely I agree that vitamin D supplementation might be needed because it is very commonly observed nowadays that every second person is having low vitamin D levels because we are indoors, we are not going out in the sun so much. So you might want to take a therapeutic treatment. You know, you want to take the vitamin D and K2, whoever doctor has advised you, you want to ask them until when do I need to take it to treat my low levels, okay? And when is it expected to be corrected? But only then, but you can't be thriving on these supplements lifelong just because you feel energetic, because you have never gone off them for a good span of 2 to 3 months. You have never realized that you can actually feel energetic without them also. So you just need to experience that.
So true. So true. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions for Ujiwala? Any other questions for Ujiwala? You can unmute yourself. Always work on your digestive system. When your digestive system do a good job, food is our medicine, all right? And listen to your body. When you're craving for certain food, that means your body is in need of that vitamin, minerals, or whatever nutrient from that food. Go and eat that food because your body is very intelligent. Your body will tell you what to eat, what to drink, what to do. Follow your body.
There are people with low blood pressure. They are, when they are dieting, they will not be ready to put food in their mouth, but they want to be dieting. So I always suggest that, okay, if you are experiencing low blood pressure, you're experiencing, some kind of lightheadedness when you're getting up from a lower level on the floor, you want to consume salty drinks. If the body is asking for it, go ahead, drink it. Don't question yourself, will it affect my weight the next morning? Yes, it will, but having a steady head is more important than having a steady weight on the scale, right?
Okay, any other questions for Ujiwala? Ujiwala, how about those people who go on keto diet, half-day fasting? There are so many kind of diet in the market. What is...
See, I personally believe that it is fine. You want to experiment with your own. I have never experimented with myself on all these things because I want to have my daily routine set. I don't want to disturb it. Of course, when you start incorporating such diets, it is going to disturb your routine. First and foremost that. Second thing is, how long are you going to do it? You want to be like, so once you do keto, there have been so many clients that I have received in Singapore, and still and lately I've been receiving clients who have done intermittent fasting and now they are like struggling to get out of it. So when you impose such strict diets on your own self, you don't know how to get out of it. And then that is the time you struggle and you question yourself, oh my God, I don't know. I have never eaten more than 30 grams of carbohydrates on this thing, being on the keto diet, but now I want to eat food because I'm craving for food. But the minute I eat, my weight goes up, my blood sugars go up. So you want to approach your health and your food with a very sustainable idea. You don't want to do anything which is trying to kill you for some time and then you want to enjoy. So you don't want to unnecessarily impose such diets wherein you are waiting for the feasting period to come in, that, okay, now I have some occasion in my family and that is the time I'm going to enjoy. Until that time, I'll just fast and create such kind of impositions on myself. Your weight rebounds. So researchers have proven when we force ourselves through very low calorie diets, like anything lesser than 800 calories, there are people who are eating only 500 calories per day if they were to do intermittent fasting, or there are people who are doing these keto diets when they're going. So what happens is when your weight goes up and down on and off very frequently, it creates a negative impact on the heart. And there are chances, and the chances of heart problems or heart attacks are much, much higher. So you don't want to force yourself through such diets.
Ujjwala, I just want to add something here, because you see,
yes, please.
the way we eat, especially Asians, we use a lot of different type of spices, right? And I think in the past, everything was cooked at home, and every spice has got its property to help us in various ways. It's medicine actually. The food is medicine that we
Hmm.
need to take. But right now, the food that we are having, because we are not cooking at home, we are lacking that
Hmm.
spice, isn't it? So how can you advise this? How can we take spice, even if we were not cooking? How can we take some of the spice to help us in our diet?
Hmm. Good question, Meera. See, first and foremost, as you said very rightly, that we are not cooking. Why are we not cooking? You want to cook at least one meal a week.
I am cooking.
So,
I do cook.
You say one
yeah,
meal a
so
week or one meal a day?
no, at least start with one meal a week. At least start with one meal a week, because if I were to ask people to cook once a day, they will kick me off. They're like, this girl doesn't have any other job to do, looks like. You see, you got to be looking at it from a very, just a minute, my battery is low. So you want to make sure that you are taking your life not too seriously, and you're looking at things from a very practical angle. So first and foremost, to answer Mira's question very directly, if you were to add spice to your life, to your food, which is already there on your table, you want to have these organic spices, buy good quality spices at home or keep them with yourself. Which are those? Black pepper. You want to buy black pepper. You want to buy cayenne pepper. If you turmeric is one good thing, but definitely look into the quality of the turmeric. Very important ingredient is cumin powder. Okay, cumin powder is a fantastic digestive aid. It also cools down your body. So if you've eaten something which is very heavy, or something which is very so heavy in terms of fat, fried, okay, tempuras and all that. So the sprinkle of cumin seeds on that type of food helps to digest the food and prevents any kind of digestive health problems. But of course, if you were to say that, okay, I sprinkled the cumin seeds powder on a full plate of tempuras, and it didn't help me, of course you ate a lot of it. Okay, so it is not going to help you. You can't you can't, many people say that I consume fenugreek seeds in the morning, or I consume cinnamon powder in the morning, and will it control my sugars in the entire day? No, nothing can negate the impact of faulty eating habits. Another spice that you can incorporate into your diet is cinnamon. Okay, so if anything that is sweet in nature, lightly sweet in nature, please put a dash of cinnamon. It will definitely help to control your blood sugars. And one and last very important ingredient, which is not so commonly used, but you should try to incorporate, is carom seeds. Carom seeds or ajwain. That is also fantastic digestive aid for people who have a lot of gas problems, or they have windy nature. Their body's nature is windy. You want to just keep a box, or just a container of roasted carom seeds with little salt, and you want to chew upon it like a mouth freshener after you finish your meals. It is definitely going to aid in digestion and prevent gastric health problems. It actually promotes your stomach to digest your food easily and not cause digestive problems.
Okay.
Thanks, Meera. I hope I have
Yes,
answered your
yes,
question,
you
or
did. I
can I?
was also a bit curious about, we do soak, cumin in water, we drink the cumin water, sometimes the coriander. So these are also some ways that we can help our digestive system, isn't it?
See, if there is a reason behind soaking them, is fine, but actually you can just simply take them by themselves. Like somebody mentioned that they take the turmeric water. So the absorption of these spices, basically all these spices have essential oils, which get unlocked, sorry, the essential oils and the phenolic compounds in them. So basically the antioxidants in them open up when we were to support them with a little fat instead of water, mostly.
Okay.
So that's the reason why you want to use these herbs and spices, and that's why in the Indian cooking also it is mostly once we prepare that tempering in the beginning, In there we put the spices, and then we put the vegetables, whatever we want to put, make it as a curry.
Yeah.
Because it opens up the compounds and it releases the flavors and those isoflavones, right? So you want to support it with a fatty base rather than a watery base.
All right. Now, tomorrow I'll be doing a talk on immune system. And during the talk, I will share about the digestive system as well. What we are sharing is, if your digestive system do a good job, you can enjoy food, you still don't have diabetes. You can enjoy oily food, you still don't have cholesterol. You can enjoy high protein food, you still don't have uric acid problem. And that is what we want to achieve. Enjoy food and yet don't have any of these diseases, because we want to make sure every cells do their job. The pancreas cells do their job, the kidney cells do their job, the liver cells do their job, the gallbladder cells do their job. Then we don't have to worry about what we eat, because you will listen to your body. Your body will just reject all those junk food once your body is all clean.
Time is your
Correct,
talk,
correct.
Veronica? What time is your talk tomorrow?
Tomorrow at 7 o'clock in the evening, at 7 o'clock on immune system.
Okay, that's good.
All right. Yeah, it's a same Zoom link.
Wednesday got talk, Thursday also got talk also, right?
Okay, next Thursday, this coming Thursday, don't have. Friday, yes. Friday is by Dawn. Dawn will share about emotion therapy. All right, so she's
Friday, right?
Friday about visualization. How to visualize yourself, bringing in the good energy and getting out all the negative energy to clear your emotional baggages. So Friday, you're going to learn something very new as well.
Okay, Ken, thank you.
All right. Any other question?
Yeah, I can read one important question which is
Yeah.
asked by Rekha Dattani. I feel bitter taste in mouth at night time. What to do? So the bitter taste in the night, or generally the bitter taste is related to, or taste alterations are related to lack of zinc. Okay, so you want to fix your zinc. So what are the zinc rich foods? The zinc rich foods are nuts. So you might want to just consume a few handful of nuts, specifically pistachios and walnuts, in order to fix your zinc. And also green leafy vegetables have good amount of zinc, which might help you to combat this.
Thank you so much, Ujwala ji. Thank you.
Most welcome, most welcome.
Yep. All right. Is
Okay.
10 more minutes. Is there any other question? Is there any
How
other
much
question?
time more? There are
10 more minutes. 10 more
okay,
minutes.
so there is another, okay, so there is another question by Felicia Young. I also drink sea salt, rock salt in the morning, which is a good idea. Just make sure that your blood pressure, how much of your salt is going in, first foremost, and second thing is, if you're only prone to low blood pressure, then I would suggest you want to do this. Otherwise, rather use these salts to sprinkle on your food. Okay. What about juicing? Yes, you can juice your food, but I personally don't prefer this, because your mouth has been gifted with teeth. And the more you grind the food, the juices that come out of the food that you grind, they mix with the saliva. And that is the chemical reaction we want to favor in order to assist good digestion. So you juice, you already drink half of the stuff. It has gone through your mouth, but it has not got mixed with the saliva. So that means you have impaired some kind of digestion. You have not really helped the digestion. You have slowed down the digestion, because this is something that did not happen in your mouth at all. So it's always good to chew your food rather than juicing your food. Okay.
Eat whole food.
21.
Eat whole food,
Yes,
yeah?
eat whole foods. Don't juice your food, because you are gifted with a set of teeth. You know, people who have to juice the food and eat, they really feel tired of it, because they don't have a set of teeth which can, you know, help them to chew. So you want to really feel blessed and use those set of teeth to chew your food. Okay,
Yeah.
and get those juices out.
Yes.
Okay, in your 21 days course, will you cover ways to customize our meals and snacks based on individual circumstances? See, frankly, the 21 days detox, sugar detox doesn't have one-to-one diet advice. So it doesn't have diet plans which are per person given. We try to give you common grounds. We fix individual goals. We give you common ideas where you can fix your problems, and if you're not able to fix it, we will try to help you. But there's no diet plans, customized diet plan going based on the fees, you know, because we have the fees is really negligible to really run into the diet programs. When you are looking for diet programs, you want to go for rather consultations. Okay, you want to go for our consultations instead. Okay, so I've already mentioned stomach is okay. So if stomach is bloated, Mr. Jill Wong is asking if stomach is bloated, what foods to avoid. Thanks. So basically, if your stomach is bloated, you want to consume small frequent meals, very first and important. Second thing is, even if you are consuming small frequent meals, first and foremost, you need to find out what is the reason behind your bloating. Is it constipation? Is it that your stomach is not getting emptied enough? If it is not getting emptied, if it is constipation, you might want to rather, so for instance, you've had your breakfast, you want to not eat till the time you feel hungry. Okay, because if you are hungry, that means the digestion that was of the food that was lying in your stomach has been done. It has passed down to the intestine, and now that you eat second meal, the next meal after feeling your hunger pangs, then is the time you will experience lack of bloating. But if you were to force yourself to keep eating small frequent meals, and then your stomach has not got emptied, that would cause bloating. Now, in some cases, some people experience bloating because their meals get delayed. Okay, so if you were planning to eat at 6:30, but you could not because you had some meeting and you ended up eating at 8:30, 9 p.m., that is not advisable, because that also causes bloating. So you want to first figure out what causes bloating. So what is the root cause of bloating? Delayed meals or too much of meals, and constipation or stress. Second thing, what type of food to avoid? You want to avoid spicy food. You want to avoid foods which are rich on difficult to digest fiber, such as beans. You want to avoid beans. Also non-veg food. If you feel that you are experiencing a lot of bloating, the protein, the hard protein that is there in the chicken, the fish, and the pork, that also creates bloating. If the food is not well cooked and if it is not chewed well, it is only going to sit in your stomach and create bloating. So you want to eat simple food, something that is like a porridge, okay, which is hydrated naturally. Have it with, like, fish porridge is something that you can consume, because the water content of that item is going to help to allow the food to pass and prevent constipation. So you want to make sure that you fix your digestive health. You want to prevent bloating because you are consuming anything which is rich on the beans and maybe spiciness. And also, if it is difficult fiber that is causing you to not digest your food, then you want to just slow down and eat simple foods. Okay, simple foods as in not the sugary drinks, but you want to eat porridges. Okay, not hard food, hard to digest foods. I think I'm done with all the queries.
Excellent. I hope you all have learned a lot today from Ujjiwala. Yeah, when she was in Singapore, I remember she will do supermarket shopping with you and teach you how to read labels. And she also will go to your house and check your fridge, check your cupboard. What have you been storing in your house? And then she will have an idea. What is your food habit like? You cannot run away from her.
Yes, supermarket tools are something that we're also doing these days. We will be continuing with the supermarket tools online, wherein I'll help to learn you to learn to read food labels and decide for yourself which of the cookies or which of the breads you should choose to eat, if in case you have to.
Yes. So choosing food is also a skill that you have to learn, so that you don't treat your body like a junk. You only put junk food into rubbish bin. So don't treat your body like a rubbish bin. So if you treat your body like a rubbish bin, your body cannot serve you well. So you must treat your body well, then your body can serve you well. You carry your body wherever you go. Make sure you carry a healthy body, an energetic body. Time to sleep, go into deep sleep. Time to wake up with an energetic body. It's no point for you to carry a tired body the whole day. That is not quality of life. All right. So what we want to achieve during this 21-day quality sleep challenge is for you to carry an energetic body every day and go into deep sleep every night. All right. Is there any other burning question? We have 2 more minutes to go and we are going to close the session, and we have to say good night to you, that you don't sleep too late. You have to sleep before 11 o'clock so that your gallbladders can start to do the detox. All right. Any question? Any question? Yes, no? No, then
I
next
think we're
week.
done.
Yeah, next week we are going to have Dawn Chen. She's an emotion specialist. She's also a certified transformologist. And she's the founder of Reconnective Healing Singapore. She's going to share about how emotional health impacts sleep. So don't forget to tune in on Friday. The Zoom room will start at 6:45 p.m. All right, 6:45 p.m. Come into the Zoom room, and the session will start at 7 o'clock sharp. So you're going to learn something new from Dawn this Friday. All right, so thank you very much for spending the time with us, and continue to learn and continue to put into practice what to eat, what not to eat, and also the breathing. Don't take breathing for granted. And breathing is supposed to be a gift, it's supposed to be natural, but now we have to learn how to breathe well. All right, even to sleep is supposed to be natural. Now we have to learn how to sleep well. Okay, so everyone, good night, and I will see you again on Friday. If you want to attend the talk on immune system, tune in tomorrow at 7 p.m. as well. Thank you so much.
Thank
Good
you.
night,
Good
everybody.
night. Thanks,
Thank
Ujjwala. Thank you,
you.
Ron.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Good night. Bye.
Good night. Bye bye.
Bye.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.